Dear friends, splendid news are coming from United Kingdom. Namely, distinguished Professor John Sidney Oxford has performed experiments with the negative and positive ions and their effects to the viruses. Professor Oxford is one of the leading world experts in viruses. He got his Ph.D. at the University of Sheffield about the viruses. For 5 decades, he's been dealing with different types of viruses, from Spanish influenza, 1918, Ebola, HIV, AIDS, birds flu, pigs flu, and so on. So he realized how important it is to stop them. Also, he's been teaching at Queen Mary's School of Medicine, University of London, and he authored some major textbooks on viruses. So now, this expert has been using air ionizers during his experiments. It's very important to distinguish his work and work of number of institutes around the world who don't have good intentions. Namely, they've been paid by the military and industrial complex to develop and modify viruses, to patent them, to use them as the potential biological weaponry, and also to develop the vaccines. Unlike them, Professor Oxford wants to help humanity. During his experiment, in the wake of what is now known as the corona pandemic, he was performing his experiment back in November of 2019. In the confined space of the box, dimensions 1 by 1 by 1 cubic meter, he had presence of viruses and air ionizer generating negative and positive ions. The concentration of negative ions was 50,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. He has noticed that all viruses were dissolved instantly, and in the process he describes what was happening. Namely, when you have the virus in the air and then negative and positive ions, those negative and positive ions, they stick to the surface of the virus. Of course, virus consists of 2 elements, RNA or DNA as a core and a protein around it. Well, those negative and positive ions are coming to those sticks, the proteins, forming OH, oxygen and hydrogen, highly oxidized. And then OH is pulling hydrogen from proteins, dissolving the proteins. Without the proteins, the virus is dead. As a matter of fact, the viruses, if they are in the air, we can consider them not dead or alive. At the moment they get to our human bodies, they are becoming very, very alive. But while still in the air, negative ions, removing protein, without it, they are dead forever. The good thing is, you didn't need to wait 5 or 10 minutes, or 2 or 3 hours to kill those viruses. It was happening immediately, instantly. His conclusion high concentration of 50,000 negative ions kill 100% of viruses instantly.
Here in Great Britain is the University of London. A new beneficial experiment into plasma cluster ions was run by the company Retroscreen Virology Limited at this university. Directing the experiment was the International Authority in Virus Research, Dr. John Oxford.
I'm John Oxford. I'm Professor of Virology at the Queen Mary School of Medicine, the University of London, and Scientific Director of Retroscreen Virology Limited. Well, now we are repeating the experiments with virus potential inactivation, and we're using a more powerful ionizer. This emits 50,000 ions per centimetre cubed, and we're hoping to achieve even more inactivation of virus.
The experiment is carried out using a 1-meter cubed box. First, virus solution is sprayed from the top surface of the box. Within the box, an ion generator is producing plasma cluster ions. The suspended viruses are gathered at fixed intervals into a solution by a trumpet-shaped collection device. On the right is a virus solution affected by the ions. On the left is a virus solution not affected by the ions. Each virus is introduced to MDCK cells and the response awaited. Here is the mechanism by which the plasma cluster ion degrades and removes the viruses. The ion generator produces positive and negative ions from air moisture through plasma electrical discharge. In the same way as ions existing in nature, plasma cluster ions are very stable when included in water molecules, and high concentration is possible in our living spaces. When two ions stick to the surface of a virus, they transform into a highly oxidizing OH radical and draw out the hydrogen from the protein of the spike-shaped virus. OH radicals exert the strongest attractive force on hydrogen out of all the oxides. Protein from which hydrogen has been taken is degraded and the OH radical returns to water. This sequence is performed in an instant, completely removing the virus. 3 days after introducing the virus into the cell, the reaction is analyzed under a microscope. The cells introduced to the virus not exposed to the ions gradually degrade. Whereas the cells introduced to the virus exposed to the ions exhibit almost no change and maintain a normal condition. This proves that the virus is removed by plasma cluster ions. This kind of experiment is repeated many times over in order to verify the virus removal efficiency. The result verified is that high-concentration plasma cluster ions can remove 99% of the virus in a 1-meter cubed space.
Now, with that degree of inactivation, I think one can begin to think clearly about how to apply this sort of technology in practice, in doctor surgeries, in waiting rooms, in people's homes, and that sort of application pleases me quite a lot. These ions inactivate or react with the surface of the virus and cause change on the surface of viruses and thereby help destroy the virus. That's quite a good method of action. And so, given all that, this sort of technology, I think, will give us some reassurance that we'd have a piece of kit, as it were, that could be used not only against viruses we know about, but viruses that could appear in the future.
Another interesting thing is that in the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids, in central Bosnian town of Visoko, we have a huge, most extensive underground tunnel network, which we named Ravne tunnels. Back in 2005, I've discovered the Bosnian pyramids and prehistorical underground Ravne tunnels. In the meantime, we confirmed we have 5, maybe even 7 pyramidal structures, and we have discovered 6 entrances to those prehistorical tunnels. We named them Ravne tunnels, KTK tunnels, Healing tunnels, Ravne 2, Ravne 3, Ravne 4. 4 of them are on our property. Well, who's us? Well, I've established non-profit and non-government foundation for the archaeological and scientific research under the name Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. And in the Ravne tunnels, we've been measuring different energy properties, among others using air ion counters, and we always use at least 2 calibrated instruments because this value is very important for us. We have noticed that during the winter month, the levels of negative ions are between 20 and 40,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. And during the summer month, between 40 and 60,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. The matter of fact, the moment you get inside, 20 meters from the entrance, you are getting 5,000 negative ions. You go deeper, 10, 20, 40, 50, in some remote areas of the tunnels. And so far we have cleared 2,500 meters of those prehistorical tunnels. In some of those remote areas, we measure even 100,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. Meaning the values of negative ions in our tunnels and the values that Professor Oxford was using during his experiment are basically the same, about 50,000 in average. Back on March 13th, 2020, I was interviewed by one of the Bosnian national TVs called Face TV. A lot of attention during the interview and even more attention once we went on a YouTube. This video on YouTube in Bosnian language was viewed more than 1.5 million times. Imagine, in little Bosnia of 3 million people. Of course, people from other countries speaking the same language, Serbia, Croatia, even Slovenia, Montenegro, and Macedonia, they were watching this video. People were sharing it massively. Why? Because people want to know the truth. Well, during this interview, I said basically 2 things. First, that negative ions indeed kill viruses. And to say something like that today, when the World Health Organization and leading authorities in the field of virology, immunology, epidemiology are claiming no vaccines, we have to invent one. Well, that was a kind of too much for some people. And second thing, I said, even if you get influenza virus, the best way to fight it is your immunity. What affects our immunity? What we drink, what we eat, what we think, and where we go. Drinking. If we drink nice, untreated, natural water. That's the best way to support your body. If we drink all kind of cokes with a pH of 3 on a scale from 0 to 14, 7 being neutral, 3 so bad for our body, ideal for viruses and bacteria. If we eat a lot of fat, refined sugar, no bueno. If we live under the stress, not created by our environment, but by us, obviously, immunity goes down. And finally, if we live in confined space, homes, surrounded by so much electronics, TVs, microwaves, laptops, computers, mobile phone, electrical circuits, and so on, it all affects our body because our body cells are fighting all those enemies. Instead, if you go out to the forest, pine forest especially, your immunity goes up. Why? Because viruses, bacteria, fungi, they also attack, besides people, they attack animals, they attack plants. Plants have defensive mechanism. They produce etherical oils. Those etheric oils are barrier against the viruses. When we walk through the forests, we breathe. In the process of breathing, we are getting those etheric oils ourselves. 2 hours in pine tree forests, 2 months of immunity. So basically, during this TV interview, I said, negative ions, forests. Well, there is a website in Bosnia that tried to analyze all media, and this website is financed through the foreign money. Basically meaning they don't really work in the best interest of the citizens of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And in their name they have disclosure. Disclosure in Bosnia, it is raskrinkavanje.ba. So they had an analysis against my interview, saying that I've been spreading false news, I've been giving the conspiracy theories, and I've been inviting people to go to the forests, to the pine tree forests, instead of staying home. That was March 13th. March 18th, 5 days later, the Bosnian Federal Headquarters for Civil Protection brought the law that everybody had to stay home. So it came later. However, this website is trying to say that we were doing something against the law, wanted to forbid our website. Well, I did a video in Bosnian language explaining why I'm using scientific arguments and what I was saying that it was right. I never got response back from that particular website. Now, this website follows recommendations of the World Health Organization. Who's the World Health Organization? It's a specialized agency of the United Nations. And they've been around since the late 1940s. Nowadays, they claim for themselves they are one and only authority for the coronavirus. They were the one who claimed the pandemic. Well, if we know a little bit behind the scene what's been happening with this body of the UN, then I think that people would start thinking a little bit differently. The first thing when you want to learn how somebody is acting, you go to the sources of the financing. The money given to this specialized agency is coming from two sources. The first one is the membership. 194 member states. Even Bosnia and Herzegovina is one of the members, paying the membership dues. It's about 35,000 euros in 2018. 193 states from around the planet are paying 78% of the membership dues. And one country only, is paying 22%, the biggest world's economy. But out of almost $6.5 billion, memberships is a little bit more than 20%. 80% we don't have disclosed information. Organizations try to learn more about the financing, claim that the rest of the money is coming from the pharmaceutical lobby. So, if you're getting money from the pharma, of course you will be listening what they are telling you to do. From 2006 to 2017, the Secretary General of WHO was Margaret Chan. Some of us still remember her when she claimed pandemic 10 years back, H1N1. At that time, they were applying very similar scenario like today. The major world media were talking about the number of cases affected by that previous influenza. And the whole story started, of course, with the most powerful media, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC. Later on, they were joined by all other newspapers, magazines in the US, in Western Europe, Asia, Africa, throughout the world. They were creating a situation that this type of influenza was so dangerous that everybody should be getting the vaccine. The day WHO claimed that influenza became pandemic, meaning it spreads uncontrollably around the planet, the very next day, the Swiss company came with the statement, "We have a vaccine." And now we could see the race of the world's governments trying to get the vaccine. Little Bosnia ordered immediately 150,000 of them. Serbia, 150,000. But the second order was 1.5 million. Croatia, 1.3 million. Hungary, 4 million. Tens and tens of millions of vaccines were ordered just from European countries. Now we're talking about hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. However, March came, influenza virus was not so present anymore, and even though some of the regional ministries, like the Minister for Health of Republic of Serbia, was getting vaccine publicly to show that it is not dangerous and that everybody should get the vaccine, people refused. A lot of money was lost. and pharma, well, that lobby was not happy. 10 years later, the scenario has been improved. Margaret Chan, the Secretary General of WHO, is also very well known as a person who spent money lavishly on her comfort. She had $200 million budget just for travel. This is more money than the budget for HIV, TBC, for mental problems, for Ebola, and some other diseases that were really supposed to cure. She would be going to the best hotels, presidential apartments, spending $1,000 a night for herself. Now imagine how much money for her teams, secretaries and bodyguards and drivers, consultants. Now, when you have such a beautiful, comfortable living, when you are bought, of course, you wouldn't care so much about the dignity and medical profession, but the interests of those who let you live in such a way. The beauty of this information is that they are coming from highly controlled, non-scientific site called Wikipedia. 20% of the information are manipulated and controlled by elites. It is not people's encyclopedia anymore. 70 to 80% is general knowledge, but delicate information, they are not. Another piece of information from Wikipedia. World Health Organization was supposed to help the third world countries with the curable diseases. However, scandal after scandal after scandal. Under the impression that they would be giving polio vaccines to young Africans, they were actually experimenting, injecting the viruses of Ebola and HIV, AIDS. In February 2020, I was visiting the Kingdom of Eswatini, known as Swaziland. My friend Michael Tellinger from South Africa and I took a group there, and I was reading the statistics. 27% of the population of this little kingdom was infected by HIV. Now, this is legal information. Do we know? Is it more? It's very possible. Ebola, if you take countries in Central Africa, from 1 to 5%, doesn't look much. But when you take into consideration that countries like Uganda, Ethiopia, Congo, Kenya, Tanzania, and the others, in most cases between 50 and 100 million people, 1 or 5% means millions and millions of people. So, when we think about the World Health Organization, is it their interest to work for us, ordinary people, or for the interests of big lobbies? Is it their interest to let us live our lives in a satisfied ways, that we are able to provide for our children, that we can travel, that we can get together with the people all around the world? Or is it all about the money and the big capital? Bosnian website that deals with the disclosure asked the spokesperson from World Health Organization about my statements that during the pandemic of corona, people should be exposed to the negative ions and people should be going to the pine forests. Christian Lindmeier answered, there is no scientific proof that negative ions can help against viruses. And secondly, that people should stay home, they should not get together or in the big groups during the pandemic. Why did he say that there is no scientific proof that negative ions kill viruses? Two options. First, the person does not know. Second, the person does what he is instructed to do because he protects certain interests. But the work of Professor Oxford is not the only one proving the effects of negative ions on viruses. In 2003, University of Leeds from United Kingdom performed the clinical study which lasted 1 full year at St. James Hospital in Leeds. Namely, they noticed that a lot of people who come to the clinic for infection diseases, they come with their disease, but then while at the clinic, they're getting another one or a couple or even 3 more diseases, because you have other patients bringing their diseases while they are using the rooms over there. So for 1 full year, they were using the air ionizers in all their rooms. After a year, the conclusion was the prevention of infective diseases caused by bacteria and viruses was 100%. 100%. Now, this is not an ad hoc study. This is not a pilot project which lasted a week. This is a clinical study with a significant amount of patients, and it's scientifically proved without the doubt that negative ions do prevent infective diseases caused by viruses and bacteria. Another research is mentioned in American Library of Medicine. The Institute for Health has several scientific articles proving the effectiveness of negative ions. One of them is telling us when you produce between 36,000 and 86,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. That A. The viruses of influenza in more than 97% are prevented to move from animal to humans, more than 97%. And B, that 100% of prevention is for viruses to be moved from one animal to another. The next research is telling us about the special bacteria which is very common at intensive care units. And this bacteria is called Acinetobacter. Namely, it is noticed that this type of bacteria is very often found on plastic medical instruments and equipment. Since a lot of intensive care units, especially units during the surgery, have many plastic parts, these bacteria would stick to the surface, and eventually some of them could get to the patient's body during the surgeries or during the recovery period when they were very weak. So, what they were doing, they were having the air ionizer, and they noticed no more infections from this type of bacteria, claiming the reason why negative ions on the surface of plastic equipment and in the air, they act as the barrier for the bacteria. And the list goes on and on. As a matter of fact, it is shame that every hospital in the world, every clinic, and most of our homes do not have an equipment to produce this electrical charge in the air and to keep our atmosphere and air clear and clean from viruses, bacteria, fungi, from pollen, from dust. The only organization in the world that systematically, for the last 12 years, research the effects of negative ions and measure the levels of negative ions, not only on archaeological locations in Bosnia, but all around the planet, is our foundation, Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation. And even though we were not established to deal with the healing, as a matter of fact, the Ministry of Justice established us to do the archaeological and scientific research of Bosnian pyramids. Underground tunnels, Bosnian stone spheres, we could not neglect hundreds and hundreds of the testimonials of people who would come to the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and especially to underground tunnels, and who would share their experiences when it comes to the healing aspect. Personally, I've been traveling around the world doing the measurements of negative ions. Especially at the pyramid sites and megalithic sites. Namely, I have noticed that major, oldest, and most superior pyramids, tumuli, concentration of the stone balls, megalithic circles, dolmens, and menhirs are the sites located on energetically potent places. And one of the features, one of the properties, are the negative ions as well. I also noticed that if you have the presence of granite, quartz crystals, underground waters, and some others, like elements of sacred geometry, that the concentrations are higher than usual. In our offices and our homes, the negative ions level are very low, 20, 50, 100 negative ions per cubic centimeter. We go to the downtowns of the big cities, 150 negative ions per cubic centimeter. We go to the towns and smaller villages, 250, 350. We go out to the parks, 500, by the rivers, 600, 700. To major Bosnian mountains near the capital city of Sarajevo, the mountain of Igman and the mountain of Bjelašnica, which have always been considered the best mountain for breathing and respiratory problems, for asthma, have level of 750 to 950 negative ions per cubic centimeter, less than 1000. Here is the review of few sites that I visit when I travel the world. For example, site of Mongrando in Varese, Italy. With most probable pyramid has 1500 negative ions per cubic centimeter. There is a beautiful and unique lake called Cerkniško Lake in Slovenia. I measured the concentration at two sites. One was one island in the lake, which is known for the Neolithic settlement, and it had 2500 negative ions per cubic centimeter. The place is called Gorica. The other place, called Resheto, had 5000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. I was very pleasantly surprised with this level. In Slovenia, the place called Žiri, location of Ravne, 1400. Damanhur, beautiful temples of humanity near Turin, Italy. 2,600. Excellent level. We have a pyramid in the island of Sardinia, Monte d'Acodi. 1,000 negative ounce per cubic centimeter. Giant's Tomb, or Tomb of Giants, in Sardinia. Several of places under that name. This one is located near the town of Arzachena, 1,500. Nuraghe, which is artificial, conical, megalithic tower. There are 20,000 of them on the island of Sardinia. This one also in Arzachena, 4,000 negative ounce per cubic centimeter. Sacred Well, Santa Cristina in central Sardinia, 2,000 negative ounce. These are all excellent levels. Destroyed Pyramid, Paoli Arbarei, Sardinia, 2,500. Menhir, Villa San Antonio, Sardinia, Italy, 2,200. Let's go to Ethiopia, the northern part, Aksum, unique place, with a park filled with stelas, one of them the largest on the planet, 520 tons. The concentration, 3,000. South Africa, stone circles, 600. Adam's calendar, 200. Kami ruins in western Zimbabwe, 1,800. The location of Zishem in the province of Hessen in Germany, about 800. In Vietnam, central parts, 1,000 to 1,500. In the US, Nevada, Arizona, top of the Granite Mountains, from 1,000 to 1,500. So these are the values that I've been measuring around the world. In the newly discovered Bosnian Pyramid tunnels, Ravne 2, Ravne 3, Ravne 4, healing tunnels, the values are reaching 5,000. And this is the entrance, the first 50 meters. The same thing in our oldest and largest tunnel network, Ravne tunnels. The first 50 meters up to 5,000. But after that, it increases to 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, 60,000. The Bosnian Pyramid tunnels, without any doubt, had as one of the major properties and functions a healing aspect. We have noticed that people who have different health challenges, after one visit or after several visits, show major improvement of their health. People are coming with the problems like asthma. After one visit, they go out, they don't need air pumps, inhalators for 3 to 6 months. People come with the pains. The pains are gone after one visit. People come with the high blood pressure, 220 over 140. After one visit, 140 over 80. People come with the very serious diseases, and they come several times, several weeks, 1 or 2 times a day. We can see major documented improvement. Why is that? In the case of our tunnels, is the combination of several factors. The first 3 are the pyramid energies that we measure there. The best electromagnetic field, the best ultrasound frequency of 28 kilohertz, which is the levitation frequency. You feel light inside. The third one is the original Schumann resonance of 7.83 Hertz. It's been the only resonance on our planet until 1990s. After that, so much bad technology, releasing electromagnetic smoke. All our technology, from computers to laptops, Wi-Fi, made such bad electromagnetic fields, which goes to the ionosphere, putting a pressure on our planet. And our mother planet started with the higher frequencies, 10 Hertz and 12 Hertz and 15 Hertz. We don't live in our original energy field anymore. And in Bosnian Pyramid tunnels, 7.83. We go back to the balance. We go back home. Element number 4, negative ions. And we're talking about them. Element number 5, no harmful cosmic radiations coming to the underground tunnels, 40 meters below the ground. No natural underground radioactivity hitting us, and we measure that regularly using Geiger counters. The values are 5 or 10 times lower than minimum allowed. No Wi-Fi signal, no cell phone, mobile phone signal, no 3G, no 4G, no 5G. So, the moment you enter the underground labyrinth, for the first time in your life, the body does not have enemies. And the body cells can start doing their job. They start fixing the problems. They start the regeneration process. They start the self-healing process. And if you get lucky, they start the rejuvenation process. The Bosnian Pyramid tunnels, the Bosnian pyramids, the energy of the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids is the blessing for the world. It's the ancient technology that helps us to protect what is the most precious for us, our health. My message to those who've been attacking us aggressively, skeptics, why don't we learn from the past and try to implement it in our present so we can get our future better? What you can find on internet regarding the negative ions, and this is readily available, I will read it to you. Negative ions benefits: relief from sore throat, cough, nausea, relief from sinus blockage and inflammation, allergy relief, migraine relief, reducing asthma attacks, increases energy, increases physical endurance, relieves arthritis pain, balances blood pressure, breathing, cholesterol, inflammation, insomnia, relaxation, meditation, injuries, surgeries, immunity, balances the pH values, purifies the blood, lymph, improves liver, kidney, lung function, detox the body, neutralize viruses, bacteria, fungi, and so on and so forth. And we have experienced every one of those items in Bosnia, and we even have them on our official website, when you can go and hear the testimonials. I always say, we are not in the healing business. We do not give medical guarantees. But people talk, Let them talk. If the fact that we stay open and people come, not only for archaeological reasons, scientific reasons, energy reasons, spiritual reasons, but also for the healing reasons, if it can help their health, we are very happy to be part of that experience. The Bosnian Pyramid project is the only case of the scientific process in archaeology that is so open. No secrets, no strictly confidential information, no hidden places where ordinary visitors do not have access. This is the only large-scale archaeological process that invite professionals and non-professionals to come and join us and be part of discovery. This is the only archaeological project that is not jealously guarded by archaeologists or Egyptologists, but we have interdisciplinary scientific approach, all kind of scientific disciplines, from classical archaeology, geology, Egyptology, paleontology, biology, to high-tech geothermal, satellite, georadar analysis, to experts in energy phenomena, physicists, electrical engineers, sound engineers, telecommunication engineers, even to the spiritual scientists. We want people to know what they feel when they meditate, when they relax. We want people to share their experiences with us. This is a unique archaeological project which should be the lead to the rest of them. We will never discover the true purpose of Egyptian Giza pyramids if we don't have engineers, geophysicists, and medical doctors involved. The same thing goes for the pyramids in Mexico, in China, in Peru, in Belize, in Guatemala, in Mauritius, in Indonesia, in Cambodia, Australia, Canary Islands, Sicily, Sardinia, Italy, Spain, Greece, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico, Peru, Bolivia. The world of the past was the world of the pyramids, and one of the major properties of the pyramid energy was the healing aspect. Imagine the real scientists with the instruments finally getting their chance to go to all the pyramids around the world, to all megalithic sites around the world. And yes, we've been doing pioneering work. And even though some do not understand us today, so they laugh at us or aggressively attack us, 20 or 50 years from now, they will follow our steps. Our little foundation, without a penny from the municipality, from regional, cantonal government, from federal government, from state government, from public and utility companies, only with the help of donations, tickets, tourists that we invite, and some of my donations, we have become the most active archaeological site in the world, showing that some major discoveries can be even done that way. We charge only for 2 locations, Tunnel Ravne and Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. The rest of it is basically for free. We have built a beautiful park, archaeological tourist park Ravne 2, which was neglected, swampy land, filled of trash. You enter it today, it is transformed properties. The most beautiful energy park in Europe. 65,000 square meters. Beautiful energy installations, art and culture, botanical gardens, labyrinths of energy and love and purification and health, children playgrounds, entrance for free, parking for free, installations for free. It has cost us a lot of money to buy, transform, and to maintain, still for free. The first quarter of 2020, during Corona outbreak and all these restrictive measures, we built a beautiful hiking trail, starting from our park to Pine Tree Forest and back after loop, 5.5 kilometers, offering it for all the visitors for free. We are not about the money. We are about the legacy. We are about our influence on tens of thousands of our visitors. Our aim is to raise the global consciousness. Our aim is to help people. Our aim is to bring back smile to people all around the planet. Once the borders are open again, we're gonna widely open our hands and our hearts and invite everyone to join us in the heart of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Visoko, Bosnian Valley of Pyramids. Me and my team will be waiting for you. Thank you very much. Dear friends, I am Dr. Sam Osmanagich. I'm greeting you from the heart of Bosnia-Herzegovina, from our beautiful Park Ravne 2. Behind me is the green crystal pyramid that we built recently. Coming to this park is free of charge. We don't charge entrance fee. Parking is for free. All the installations are for free. We recently made a beautiful hiking trail, spent a lot of money, and we have given it for free to the public. We show that there are different concepts. It's not always about the money. In our case, it is about the humanity. I ask you to give us a little support. Subscribe to our YouTube TV channel. It is for free also. And you're gonna have a content which we update and refresh every few days. New documentaries, new movies, news from the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you here soon.